One of the first books I actually checked out from the library as a teenager was How to Read the Wall Street Journal. The trend's your friend till the bend in the end, trailing trades. You're talking about real money under a lot of pressure. I'm not going to turn around and have that whole thing become a loss. And that's what people really need in this industry at this time.
Welcome everyone to TradeStation and another edition of our Trader Interview Series. My name is Michael Burke. I'm Vice President of Client Training here at TradeStation. And today we're honored to welcome Rob Hoffman, veteran trader, author, educator, and 25-time domestic and international trading champion. Rob is the founder of BecomeABetterTrader.com and is the featured speaker at trading seminars and symposiums all over the world. Rob, thanks so much for joining us today.
Mike, great to be here with you in TradeStation.
So Rob, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the markets.
Well, truth be told, Mike, I don't know how else to say it, but the way it is, I was a weird kid. I was a teenager, and I loved math, and I loved looking at charts. I would look at periodicals like Wall Street Journal and Investor Business Daily, and they'd post charts in their articles. I would always try to guess where I thought the market was going to go from there. It was kind of a game as it started out at first, and then it became something that actually became serious to me. So one of the first books I actually checked out from the library as a teenager, this was roughly 15, going on 16 years old, was How to Read the Wall Street Journal. And that was actually one of the first books that's still part of my library to this day. And so I basically started learning the markets. Of course, I didn't have any money to actually participate in the markets, but I just found it a personal challenge. It was my way of having fun. I loved chess. Even to this day, I still think of the market as a game of chess. So that's kind of sparked my interest in the markets at an early age.
So Rob, what I'd like you to do is to talk a little bit about your approach to finding trading opportunities and how you look at the markets.
Okay. Well, as far as how I find trading opportunities, I guess I'll do a shameless plug for TradeStation. The reality is the radar screen is a phenomenal tool. I certainly, going back to the 90s, used TradeStation, well, aka Super Charts, back in the day. I'm starting to date myself now. I was part of the System Trading and Development Club back in the 90s and such. But radar screen is a phenomenal way to actually find trades, especially when I need to make snap decisions on an intraday basis. So one of the ways I find trades, the kind of trades I'm seeking out, are trades where I'm typically identifying trend trades. I'm looking for pullbacks and then resumptions within the trend. And I got to be honest with you, Mike, I travel all over the world, as you're well aware. I speak with retail and institutional clients. I have yet to find a full-time counter-trend trader only that's truly consistently successful. Boy, I wish I could find that person, because I would bring them into my organization and we would do some incredible things together. But the reality is most of the money tends to come with trend trading and pullbacks within the trend from my perspective. These are my opinions, of course, only. I use Radar Screen to help me identify some of these opportunities on, be it an intraday or end of day basis. So on an intraday basis, I tend to focus on futures, stocks, and currencies. I tend to be known for the intraday stuff just because the international trading competitions, these are intraday type things, not typically, multi-week, multi-month, the ones that I'm involved with. So a lot of people know of me on the intraday basis. Also, people get to come watch me trade live frequently. So futures, stocks, and currencies are what I tend to focus on an intraday basis. I like highly volatile instruments like the stock indices, gold, crude oil, the DAX on an intraday basis for futures. Stocks, things like Netflix, Amazon, the Tesla, there are big fast movers. It used to be Apple. Apple used to be actually my favorite one. In fact, I've done a fair amount of Apple trading, with larger size through my TradeStation there. But after Apple, of course, split and became a under $100 stock at the time, I'm sure, in fact, you perhaps can't comment on it, but from an options perspective, it wasn't as fun on the options side as well from a premium perspective, and it certainly wasn't as fun on a volatility perspective. So these days I kind of tend to gear towards things that are a little bit more Wile E. Coyote, like Tesla and so on and so forth. And then on a currency basis, as a rule, I tend to focus on the euro. So those are the kind of things on an intraday basis. And then on an end-of-day basis, both stocks and options are on the table for trading from a swing trade basis, but not futures and not currencies for me personally, Rob Hoffman. So you'll notice a little bit different risk profile. Futures, stocks, currencies, more aggressive behavior on an intraday basis, but then I want to go home flat at night from those types of things, and then I'll only look at stocks and or options from a swing trading perspective. So a different risk profile.
Got it. I use Radar Screen every day myself. It's a great tool for finding trading opportunities. Earlier, you mentioned that you compete in trading competitions. Can you talk a little bit about how and when you got started, and what is that trading competition experience like?
Yeah, boy. So the first one was back in 2011, I believe it was. What had happened was I'd had a run of success in the markets, became very well known, and one of the brokerage firms that I was doing trading with invited me to participate in this big multi-person, multi-day, multi-elimination type competition as well. At that point, no American had ever won the big 16-person type trading elimination competition. Some big names had gone before me and didn't get very far, and it was rather daunting. But I was placed 16th out of 16th because no American had ever done very well before. What happened was, as fate would have it, I won the trading competition. It was over the course of 12 hours. It went from 16 traders down to 8 traders, down to 4 traders, down to 2 traders. So it's this 12-hour elimination process starting in the European session, working its way into the U.S. session to close up the deal. And then, as fate would have it, I kept doing the American competitions that I was invited to, and subsequently was invited back to do those international competitions and went on to win that 2 more years in a row there. So that's kind of the evolution, starting off small with a couple of domestic ones, getting invited to the big international ones, and then continuing to do a lot of those international ones since then. In fact, I was over in Italy earlier this year, won a couple of those, and so it's exciting to kind of do those around the world.
Winning 25 competitions, that's incredible.
Well, the thing about that is it's no easy task, that's for sure. You're talking about real money under a lot of pressure, most of the time in front of huge audiences, asking questions. You got judges, you got referees, standing around. You got to verify, you got to validate your trades. They got to come back and check it all. A lot of times you got to call out your trade too while you're doing it. So some of them can be pretty daunting. But the exciting part about it is, doing that with real money, and putting out there in front of people, there's no substitute for that. And even when I've done some of the events here for TradeStation, I did some live trading events. He just did one here recently for you guys. I put it out there live in my live TradeStation account and did that in front of the audience, and they loved it. And there's just no substitute for that. And that's what people really need in this industry at this time.
I agree. It's always great for new traders to watch other traders trading live. So Rob, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about money management. I'm sure money management is important in trading competitions, and maybe you can touch on that a little bit. But let's talk more about how you approach money management and risk management in your own day trading and swing trading.
Yeah, and over the years, that's certainly evolved. I had a large loss several years ago where I actually was making money on the trade and went ahead and wasn't trailing back then. So that was one of the big things in my career that made a big difference for me, was trailing trades. There's a lot of people that teach out there, hey, just put a trade on, put a target out there, put your stop way back behind you there, and let it ride. Well, the problem is that the closer you get eventually to your target, the trend's your friend till the bend in the end. We're more likely to hit that bend in the end as we get closer to your target, right? Many people listening to this at some point in the future will be able to relate to this, where they've had a perfectly good trade on, they did everything right, they called the trade right, but then the target was a little bit off, and so they didn't quite get up to that quite obvious target, or maybe the target they picked for themselves for whatever reason, and so it misses their target, turns all the way around, and actually becomes a loss. What I found through that loss several years ago was, man, that's criminal. to sit there and work so hard, do everything right, have a good trade. It's one thing to give something a little bit of a chance to run, but to follow it up as if it's moving up your direction. So I kind of have this whole what I call 50, 80, 90 to price methodology for trailing now. So what happens is the closer we get to my target, so we're 50% of the way to my target, I end up trailing by about 50% of profit earned, which in real dollars, Mike, basically means a 25% profit. If the market were to stop and all of a sudden reverse, I'd lock in about 25% of the overall anticipated move to the target. Once it gets about 80% of the way to the target, I'm trailing by about 80% of profit earned. Once it gets up to right near the target, I'm trailing up by 90% of profit earned. Giving it a chance to push a little bit further, but if it's not going to do that, I'm not going to turn around and have that whole thing become a loss. So in addition to that, typically what I'm looking for on a risk-reward basis these days, I try to develop strategies that have roughly an 80% probability of success and a 2-to-1 reward to risk ratio, which improves my money management odds for when I'm wrong versus being right. Versus a lot of people, their trades are 50-50 and their money management's 1-to-1 or worse, putting them in that proverbial hole that's very hard to dig out of. So those are a couple of my different strategies and methodologies for that.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. So, Rob, let's change the subject a little bit here. I know that you're involved in some charities. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. And you have 2 young children. So talk a little bit about how you kind of manage your day trading with 2 small children around.
Well, you're right. So as it relates to the kids, when I was younger, I was working an awful lot, and I managed to go ahead and having a little boy who's now not so little. He's 24 and is a United States Marine. That's pretty exciting. And what happened was I wasn't able to really spend that time with him that I would have liked between, academy and continuing education, a couple of jobs, and then learning to trade. There was a lot going on there. So what I learned is it's a hard lesson, early on, is that the time with your family is invaluable. You can't get that time back. And so what happens is I finally got married here roughly 4 years ago to a super incredible woman. And we've had a couple of children, my 3-year-old daughter and my 11-month-old son. So you grow up, you get a little bit wiser, hopefully, and I certainly have. And so what we do now is I have kind of an open door policy for my offices, both at my physical location and at my home office, where the kids can basically come in at any point. Even some of my bigger broadcasts, I've been known to stop the broadcast for a moment, spend a moment with the kids. I don't want the kids to ever feel that work was more important than them. And so when I really have something that's truly important that just can't be interrupted under any circumstance, then, we make arrangements for that in advance with my lovely wife, Sarah, and that. But the kids are really everything from my perspective these days. I juggle 3 different things: my home life, my family life, with my immediate family here, my student family, which is all over the world, and working with them, and then my charitable work as well, which I tie in throughout the year with the business, basically giving away or greatly discounting products and services to get people to donate to, like, St. Jude, and I got some other exciting charities I'm looking forward to announcing very soon. So stay tuned for that. That being said, so family is extremely important. The balance, it's really a matter of making time, and it seems like it's impossible sometimes. I just put in very long hours. Mike, I'm no stranger to hard work and effort. I usually start around 6:30 in the morning and go till roughly 9-10 at night, but I'll take those breaks out to eat with the family. And so I'd advise everybody out there who spends their nights, their weekends, their days squirreled away, away from the family to become a better trader. The reality is there are opportunities to become a better trader and still love and focus on your family, and also charitable work as well, to be a well-rounded, citizen.
Rob, we're just about out of time, but before we go, I'd like you to talk a little bit about Become a Better Trader. What is it like there during the day? And talk about any upcoming projects or events that you've got on the horizon.
Sure. Well, as far as Become a Better Trader, it's designed for primarily day traders and swing traders. That particular site is not so much focused on long-term investing per se, a year or less holding periods with a real focus on either intraday up to a couple of months. The strategies are very much focused on those. So we have a live trading environment where people can kind of come watch me trade live, but also for people that have to miss during the day, I have a nightly video newsletter type service where basically I'm recapping some of the key trades from the room or some of my own personal trading in those nightly videos, and then also focusing on some of my favorite swing trade ideas and reviewing the favorite swing trade ideas of our students. We have what I call the Ask Rob section or Access to Rob section. And people type in, hey, Rob, I'm looking at this. Hey, I'm looking at that. How do you look at it? So I don't give people individual advice. I don't say, hey, John or Jane, you need to go do this. But what I'll do is I'll say, well, here's how I'm looking at that from my perspective. So I kind of share my thoughts. So I look at other people's ideas and look at how through my lens for their betterment. And then I look at my own original ideas, day or swing trading opportunities that I see. So those are a couple of the core things. Of course, I've got some great indicator packages and that work with TradeStation, for instance, because the radar screen, we take full advantage of that power. Over the years, I've come to see the benefits of that. We take full advantage of that too. So a lot of our indicator packages, they have built-in alerts and whatnot through the radar screen. And then, of course, at the TradeStation store, we've got the indicator packages there.
So Rob, for those who may not be familiar with the Trading App Store, the TradeStation Trading App Store is a marketplace of indicators and strategies and trading apps created by developers and educators like Rob that can be used inside the TradeStation platform. So Rob, one last question. If you had some advice for an aspiring trader out there, what would that advice be?
What I would say is, look, I want to, whoever's listening out there today to this, we want it to be right for you. If you're a budding day trader or a swing trader, or you're a seasoned day trader, swing trader, and something's not working right for you right now, give me a call. They can reach us at 847-235-6131, ask to speak to me, or email support@becomeabettertrader.com. And I'll be happy to pick up the phone. I know people in this business are sometimes really hard to get a hold of. I try to make myself as accessible as possible given my hectic schedule. Probably one of the reasons why I'm 6:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, Mike. But as far as upcoming events, one of the big events that I'll be speaking at and featured at in the very near future is moneyexpo.com. There's a big event there with several great speakers from around the world. In fact, Mike, I think yourself will be on that, and several other notable speakers from around the world is part of that. So they can see me at moneyexpo.com, and then follow along. I have free nightly videos on Become a Better Trader as well. So a couple great places to find me into the future.
Well, again, I want to thank Rob Hoffman for spending this time with us today. This was really outstanding. Thank you, Rob.
Good to be here with you, Mike. Thanks so much to you and TradeStation.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. You can learn more about Rob Hoffman at becomeabettertrader.com. And don't forget to tune into more of our TradeStation podcasts. You can learn more about TradeStation by visiting our website at www.tradestation.com to learn more about our outstanding educational resources and online brokerage services. The preceding podcast was for educational purposes only. All of the symbols and trading ideas discussed by the instructors and guests were for educational purposes and not recommendations. Active trading is not suitable for everyone. Options trading carries a high degree of risk. You can find the characteristics and risks of standardized options disclosure and additional disclosures on the TradeStation website.